Okay, hello. So yeah, let's start with our tasks. So in the stream description, it is clear that we have three goals today. So first is solving five Leetcode medium problems. Then some interview prep regarding socket.io, and then some interview prep regarding progressive web app. I'll first quickly check if my mic is properly working or not. So just give me. Alright, let's go. So we will start with some Leetcode problem. Difficulty medium. Alright. So we will start with let's sort it with the acceptance ratio. Okay. Well, subrectangle queries, partitioning minimum number of deci-binary numbers. Alright, let's start. What is this? What does this icon mean? Subscribe to unlock. To view this solution, you must subscribe to premium. Alright. So we'll simply solve the problem in that case. Alright, so the question is implement the class subrectangle queries, which, okay, so this is the class subrectangle queries. Okay, which receives a row, column, rectangle. Using rectangle as a matrix of integers in the constructor and supports two methods. Which receives a row, column, rectangle as a matrix of integers in the constructor and supports two methods. Update subrectangle. Okay, update subrectangle will take row 1, column 1, row 2, column 2, new value. Updates all values with this new value in the subrectangle whose upper left coordinate is row, column, upper left coordinate, and bottom right coordinate is row. Okay. Implement the class subrectangle queries, which receives a row, column, rectangle as a matrix. Alright, so it receives this as matrix of integers in the constructor. Matrix of integers. Constructor provides two methods. Update subrectangle. Updates all the values with new values in the subrectangle. Okay. Get value and row and column returns the current value of the coordinate from the rectangle. Okay. I think we can do it. So I think in JavaScript you can use So you can use a class in here, but I think they have used a function here because they're still using ES5, I guess. Instantiated call as such, where is go to new. Okay. So how do we call a constructor in a function? JavaScript object constructor. No. Function constructor creates a new function on calling the constructor directly functions dynamically but suffers from security similar. Okay. Function constructor. Not this one. Alright, so basically what I want to know is if I have a function called variable called abc, or maybe return square. Alright, so this is a function return square. It will take n as number. Oh, return n times n. Alright, now let abc is equal to new return square. What is abc then? So if I do abc of 4, abc is not function. Okay, gotcha. So function return square to let's see. Okay, now if I do let abc is return square a, or maybe abc return square 4, so it will be abc. Result. All right. Okay, I get it. So then we will use this prototype. unexpected to in line number 2. Why it is unexpected for you? Constructor and function. Okay, new user track. This means user.admin. The regular syntax allows to create an object token will create many similar objects, multiple users. Constructor function. Constructor function technically are regular functions. There are two conventions, though they are named with capital letter first. They should be executed only with new operator. Alright. So following a new empty object is created and assigned to this. Okay. The function body executes usually it modifies this, adds new properties to it. The value of this is returned. Ah, I see. So the value of this will be returned. So if I do like, so we don't need the return square. This dot num is equal to n. Right. And then we do return sum square dot prototype dot return result equal to method which will just return this dot num times this dot num. Okay. Now if I do, so what will ABC become? Ah, I see. So it will be ABC dot return result. What? So this dot num. Ah, of course. I didn't return anything here. So let ABC is equal to 4. This dot num. Oh, screw it. So basically we got the hang of it. So whenever we call it using rectangle, so we have this dot this rectangle is equal to rectangle, right, which will be a row times column matrix. Okay, makes sense. Now some rectangle queries dot prototype. So if you do row 1 column 1 row 2 column 2, so what are the edge cases? Constraint, there will be at most 500 operations considering the both methods. At most 500 operations. Okay, so rows will be greater than equal to 1, columns will be less than equal to 100. Okay, so columns will be less than 100. Rows is rectangle at length, of course. Rectangle at length, alright. So row 1, row 2, alright, column 1, column 2, okay. So they will always be less than or equal to rows. We don't have to put edge cases here. So 1 is less than new value, rectangle, ij is always okay, so this is the value. You can use int new value. Okay, new value will be a positive number. Rows can be equal, okay, so rows can be less than equal to 0. Columns can also be less than equal to 0. Alright, this dot row will become makes sense. Now for the subrectangle queries. Alright, now for the subrectangle queries, update the subrectangle. Alright. What are they asking us to do? Updates all the values, bottom of coordinate. Tells the current value of the coordinate. Okay. So param number return void. Okay, so we don't have to return anything. So if row is greater than equal to, okay, do we have to put that constraint? Row 1 will always be less than equal to row 2. Okay, cool. So we just have to put equal to constraint. If row 1 is equal to row 2 and column 1 call 2 return nothing. Right, now so the question is, updates all the value with new value in the subrectangle whose upper left coordinate is subrectangle whose upper left coordinate is row 1 and bottom right. Okay, Let's go with the brute force approach first. We will do let go to row1 for let j is equal to row2. I is less than equal to row2. I know I have done that wrong. It should be column 1. I plus plus j is equal to column 1 j is less than equal to column 2 and j plus plus. Right, now for every element we will pick up that thing. This dot rectangle, this dot rectangle dot value. Is it value though? No, this dot rectangle of I and j. This dot rectangle of I and j should be equal to new value. Cool. Subrectangle queries. Get value. Returns the current value of the coordinate on the rectangle. Okay, we can do it. This rectangle row column. Do we have an error? Accepted. What if we submit it right now? Wrong answer. Output expected. So my output is this, but they have expected. I don't see the difference. Null 8, null 8, 2, null 8, 8, null 8, null 8, 2, null. Oh, 4, 8. My bad. So the expected should be 4, 8 for the case where the subrectangle get value. Alright, so subrectangle queries. So for the subrectangle queries, I think we have 288874 2 cross 3 get value of 10. So we have two 8 8 8. Okay, now we have said that we need to get the value of 1, 0, which is this one, 8. Output no. So get value, update subrectangle 1 2 1 2 1 2 7 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, so first one we have no subqueries, right? For the second one we have 8. Cool. So we are getting the error for this get value of 1, 1. Okay, So for update subrectangle we have 1 1 1 1 4. 1 1 1 1. Okay. If row 1. Okay, so we don't even need this. If we submit this now, it should work. Accepted. Oh, runtime faster than only 9.09% of JavaScript online submissions for subrectangle queries. Okay. Memory usage less than 38.64%. Okay. So the thing is, this could be better. So obviously my time complexity for the whole thing is of n squared because of this. So how can we assign a new value? Right, let's see the discussions. Easy solution, must try. Okay, which one has the highest reports? Okay, so first we will search using JavaScript. JavaScript solution. Use splice to insert. Okay, so they have used. How it is faster than 99 points. Okay, I need to see this. Oh, come on. How can you be faster than 99? Maybe because they have submitted it earlier. I don't know how this works, but use splice. For splice is a lot time consuming. Splice, what is the time complexity of splice? O and if it has same O of n time complexity, might as well just use a for loop there. I don't know what's wrong there, but yep, I think most of the good solutions, JavaScript clean code, also O of n squared time complexity, JavaScript again same. I don't know, I think we did good. Alright, let's go to problems. Difficulty medium, sort by acceptance rate. This is done. Partitioning into the minimum number of deci-binary numbers. Okay, we can try this. A decimal number is called a deci-binary if each of its digit is either 0 or 1 without any leading zeros. Okay, for example 0 1 is not deci-binary number while 1. Okay, cool. Given a string n that represents a positive decimal integer, okay, returns the minimum number of positive deci-binary numbers needed so that they sum up to n. What? Okay, so we have a string called n which is a positive decimal integer. So return the minimum number of positive deci-binary numbers needed so that they sum up to n. Alright, so if n is 32, alright, I see. So you have to give 10 11 11, which gives you 32. Cool. Okay, makes sense. So if your number has 32, right, so we can divide these numbers using, for example, if my number is this thing, n is this thing, right, so my n is this thing, so I will simply break these numbers. Okay, let's just take it till here. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll take the first one. It will take 6 ones, right, 6 ones, or it can be either 1 or 11, right, it cannot be 0 1. So 6 ones or 6 11s, right, 6 11s means, so what we will do is 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. We can set an object of 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Right, for 6 we will do, so there are 6 minimum 6 decibinary numbers are needed, so it will be 6. Now it can be either 1 or it can be either 11. So this can be either 6 times 1 or 6 times 11, right. Now if it is 6 times 1, then nothing will be carried forward to this thing, but if it is 11, then we have to carry forward 60 to the next batch, right. Similarly for this we have 40. So to use minimum, right, what we can do is we can use the maximum values here, right. 6 times 11, so 6 times 10 will be carried, so whatever it is carried we will mark it as curly brace, right, my bad, curly brace. Now we'll see what is this number. So this number is 4 times 10, right, it can be 1, it can be 10, this can be 100, this can be 1000. Okay, does that make sense? Makes sense. 1000, 10,000, 100,000, oops, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million. Alright, so now for 10 we have 6 times 10. So does it satisfy that? So if it satisfies this thing, then we will move the remaining thing. So now, so it can only give you tens, right? So for here we would say we have minimum. Okay, so for 6 we have the 4 from the previous one. I mean for 40 we have 60 from the previous one, and we'll simply um, subtract that. So subtracting it, minus 4 times 10 will give you 2 times 10. Alright, now this 2 times 10. Okay, so there should be a negotiation, like there are 2 extra, so we have got 2 extras, right? So we can remove 2 from here, so it can be 3, I mean 2 ones, 4 11s. Alright, now in here we don't need anything, so we'll simply put 0. 400, I will check 300, right? So it will be 3. Right, why are we solving this when we have this number? So we can at least tally our number also. Alright, so for 4, we have 4 times 11, or 1 times 1, 3 times 11, considering the previous 3, we can have 0, 4, 7, while 1 and 2 are not feature is inside a 0 and 1 without any leading zeros, for example this binary. Positive decibinary numbers, cool. So for this we have 1, 10s, 100, 1000 and 1000. Here we don't need them. Alright, so here we would at least need I see. So if we need 8, 10,000, that can also work, but also use either it can be 10 or it can be 11, so it will be 88. No, so this has to be 8. How this is okay. Now I realize the complication. So it can either be 10,000 or it can be any permutation of 1 plus to the power of n to the power of 4, 16, 0, 0, 0, 0. Any possibility to do, oh boy, 16 to the power of 4, so exponential possibilities. So there has to be some dynamic programming in here. Cool. Okay. How do you solve this? How do you think of it? How do you try to minimize the time complexity? Right. So let's start with the highest number. So it has 10,000. So if we use 8 times, so we have to use 8 times 10,000. Right. So if we use 8 times 10,000, I mean there should be 8 1 2 3 4 5 5 digit numbers. Now the first one can be anything, like 1 0. Okay. So it can be 1 1. Right. We would need this now. 8 2 7 3 4. So we have draw 8. Alright, so for 8 we would need 10,000 times 8 at least. Now we can also put or maybe okay, simplify now. Or what we can do is we can do 1 1 0 0 0 times 2 plus 1 0 0 0 0 times 6. Right, this solves. So this solves the issue of 8 2. Or what we can do is we can do, or we go a little bit deeper, 1 1 7 1 0 0 times 2 plus 1 8 2 7 3 4. 5, 6, 7. Okay. 0 times 5 plus 1 0 5 6 and 8. Right, it solves the problem of 7. Now comes 3. So we can do plus 1 0 1 0 0 times 5 plus 1 0 1 0, which gives you 3. Comes 4. Well, you can have 0 1 1 1 1 0 times plus 8. That makes 3 4 5 6 7 8 8. Right, that is easier. But what if we have 7 2 9 3 8? In that case, for 7,000 we need at least 10,000 times 7. No. 4 5 times 10,000 plus 2 times 1 1 0 0 0 9. One zero 1 0 0. So at max it can be 9. So whatever the highest number is, that should be it. So in this case, what is the highest number? 9. What is the highest number? 3. Okay. What we can do is, it that simple? 4 let I equal to 0, I is less than n dot length, I plus plus. If n of I 9, then return 9. Otherwise, return maximum. code. If we submit it, hey, nice. That was a tricky question. That was a nice tricky question. I like that. So, chat or whoever is watching, maybe Shubham in future. This is one question you should look out for. This is a nice question. But the thing is, runtime is 115 milliseconds faster than, alright, memory usage 43 MB less than 90. Okay, so we don't O of n. So basically, O of n is the only space complexity. The time complexity can be. Okay, so basically, we can even remove this. We can just make it to the half. N of I, n of max length. N dot length, total length, or total length by 2. Math dot row plus 1. So 0th element. If n of total length minus 1 minus I is greater than max norm, then max norm is equal to this thing. It must run. If I run the code, it worked 68 milliseconds. If we submit this, what? I literally reduced the number of iteration to half. Alright, I guess it's fine. I don't know. Why is the math.flow taking much time? If I submit it again, there's 190. Are you kidding me? And it's now faster than 98. The same solution was previously taking more memory, but now it is taking lesser memory. It was taking 130 milliseconds. It is now taking 198 milliseconds. Really? I don't get this. It's max norm. Simple from 9. No questions asked. Or okay. Or is 9. Just return 9. Submit. 96. Okay. Now it's load. Submit it again. Now it's higher. Submit it again. What's wrong? You have attempted to submit too soon. Okay, alright, fair enough. So in my knowledge, the accepted time, this is fair. Alright, let's just see the discussions, right? We don't have to think about it. TypeScript solution, runtime 88 milliseconds, memory usage 47.2. Okay. Simple solution with explanation, max digit, one-liners, C++, Java, let's see. Solution, C++, JavaScript, max partitions, N, math.max. Math.max, and you're doing just N. Just like that. Time complexity O of N, this can be reduced. Okay, obviously makes sense. If you reduce it to half also, it still be O of N. Makes sense. Totally fine. O of 1. Math.max will just do the same thing. It will iterate over it, and basically I have implemented math.max. I mean, not exactly math.max, but yeah, same thing. Good job, Shubham. Cool. What else? So we have solved 2 problems today. 3 more to go. How much long have I streamed for? Almost an hour now. 30 minutes per questions. These easy questions should have been easier. I should be able to solve them quickly. Need to see. Premium queries of number of points inside a circle. Alright. You are given an array points where points of I is equal to x of I, y of I is the coordinates of the ith position into the 2D planes. 2D plane, okay. So it is like 0th, 1st, 2nd, okay. So I is the coordinate of the ith point. Points of I. Multiple points can have same coordinates. Multiple points, same coordinates. Okay. You're also given array queries where queries of j is equal to x, y, and r. Let's have the circle centered at x, y with the radius r of j. For each queries j, compute the number of points inside the jth circle. Points on the border of the circle are considered inside. Ordinary answer Alright, so the points are input points 1, 3, 3, 3, 5, 3, 2, 2. Alright, queries 2, 3, 1. So queries 2, 3, 2, 3. What? Are you serious? Oh, x is 2, y is 3. Oh, where are my maths? Yeah, 2, 3, and 1. Alright. 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, and 2. So output 3, 2, 2. Array answer Create the query. So the query first, they have two circles in them. Queries 0 is the green circle. For each query, compute the number of points inside. Acha, number of points inside. Got it. Jth circle. First, second. Only two. Points. The points are 1, 3. 1 and 3. Alright. 3, 3. 3, 3. 5, 3. 2, 2. There are 2 points. 2, 3, 2, 3, 1. 2. 2, 3, 1. Number of points in the circle 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you have this circle, you have this another circle. Okay, so you have this one circle, another circle, another right circle. So these are the points. Apart from points, you have also created a circle, array of circle. How many points are there in the circle? So for the first circle you have 3, for the second 2, 2. How do you determine that? So you have to check 1, 3 points. See the boundary. This too. See, you just have to subtract it. If it is radius, any point minus this. If it is less than the radius inside the point. Oops, sorry. So this point minus okay, cool. So what we can do is let result points. Let I is equal to 0, or maybe we can just do a for each points dot for each element comma index for each element and index. For each element and index, we will see if radius it will always be okay, it's becoming I times I. Okay, let's implement the brute force approach at least. Queries dot for each element comma idx query element. We'll see. So we'll apply the Pythagoras theorem. X so every element element of 0 minus element of 0 minus, which is the center point, which is PT I element of 0 minus point of 0. Now I is equal to element of 1 minus point of 1. Right. Oh, we'll see. First we will simply put it array new queries. Alright. Now element 1 minus point 1 element. Okay. Cool. Result is equal to x time y times 2. Math.sqrt, I think. Smart will give you the result. Now I have the result. So for this result you have to check also if result is less than or equal to element 2. plus equal to 1. Return. Wrong answer. Output expected. So 1 3 3 3 5 3 2 2 2 3 1. So EL. Ah, come on. Res. Accepted. Nice doing this. What if I submitted? Okay. So I have worse time complexity. Faster than these many people with JavaScript online subscription submission for this. But space complexity is okay because I'm just using O of n space. But my time complexity is p times n, I mean p times q, O of q and p times q. Queries dot length, points dot for each. Okay. Alright. Let's see how other people's are solved. Discussion. JavaScript. Just easy to understand solution and fast and other. Alright. Hey man, this is. How come it is 96 faster than other solution? Easy solution, nice. It's faster than 116 ms. And you use the same thing. I don't get it. Simple JavaScript. Oh, n squared. Yeah, of n squared. Same here. Fire, easy read. No, queries map. Points to reduce. Is inside is basically distance. Distance. Oh come on, dude. It's just doing the same thing. N squared. Everyone is giving n squared. %, faster for each. Brute force, night geometry formula, intuition. Yes, that's actually true. This actually gives a lot of readability. Cool. I think my solution works. Submissions 144. If I submit it again, yeah, okay, dude. Problems. Difficulty medium. You're in stream. Oh no. Chalo, chalte. Difficulty medium, acceptance again, this thing. So we have solved 3 questions. We'll come back, we'll solve more, I'll read more a little bit. Let's see. Till then, cool. Till then, listen to this thing, guys. How do I put out for dinner? Out for dinner. How do I write? Images. dinner. How to see it full screen? Open like a new tab. Whoop. Open image in new tab. Alright. This shows that I'm out for dinner. Right. Welcome back, guys. Right, I'm back. I'll turn on my cam in few moments. Before that, let's start with another question. Minimum number of operations to move all balls to each box. Okay. You have n boxes. You are given a binary string boxes of length n, where boxes I is 0. You have n boxes. You're given a binary string boxes of length n, where boxes I is 0. The ith box is empty. One ball. Okay. In one operation, you can move one ball from a box to an adjacent box. Box I is adjacent to box J. Box I is adjacent to box J if absolute value of 0. Okay. Note that after doing so, there may be more than one ball in some boxes. Return the array answer of size n, where answer I is the minimum answer of I is the minimum number of operations needed to move all the balls to the ith box. Okay. Return an array answer of size n, where answer of I is the minimum number of operations needed to move all the balls to the ith box. Each answer I is calculated considering the initial state of the boxes. Boxes is good 1, 1, 0. The answer of each box is as follows. First box, you'll have to move one ball from the second box to the first box in one operation. Second box, you have to move one ball from first box to the second box in one operation. Third box, you have to move one ball from first box to the third box in two operations. Well, I don't understand this. Alright, let's try to understand this again. You have n boxes. You are given a binary string boxes of length n, which is this thing 3, where boxes I is 0 if ith box is empty, and 1 if it contains one ball. In one operation, you can move one ball from a box to an adjacent box. Box size adjacent to box J. Return an array answer of size n, where answer of I is the minimum number of operations needed. Answer of I is minimum number of operations needed to move all the balls to the ith box. What? Oh, I see. So if I move this ball here to here, it will take me one operation. So all the balls are first one. Second, if I move this here, 3. Okay, got it. So in this case, if we have 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0 1 0 1 1. Right. So in the first case it will be 1 2 1 2 3 4 6 6% 13. So is it really 13? How come 11? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ah, obviously, my bad. 11. Cool. So we have 11 here for the first case. For the second case, I think it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8. 5, 4, 3, 11, 8, 5, 4, 3, 4. 11, 5, 4, 3, 4. Okay, got it. I understood this thing. So now we have to devise an algorithm for this. So what we can do is zeroth distance from so basically minimum distance of all the ones from a node or from a point. So minimum distance to set the index 0 1 2 2 0 1 2 3 4 5 2 4 and 5. Right, and there are total 1 2 3 5 6 so it can be 0. So it can be 0 if we go to 2 steps. I mean 5 6 7 8 9 10 11. First case 1 plus 3 plus 4, which is 8. Third position so the third position, for it to go to the third position, okay, I'm not explaining, I'm not doing a great job in explaining. So we have maintained one array where we will store the index of non-zero entities, which is 2, 4 and 5. So 2, 4 and 5, and then we calculate the distance of these non-zero entities from each point. So from 0th point the distance will be index of 2 minus index of 0, which is 2. Again, from 0 to 4 it will be 4, from 0 to 5 it will be 5, so 2 plus 4 plus 5 will be 11, which is the first one. When we go to the first index, so distance from first index to the second index is 1, right? So that's why 1 plus 3 plus 4 is equal to 4. Distance from here, so it's from 2 minus 2 0 plus 2 plus 3, which is 5. Okay, I think we got it. So the time complexity will be n. So we have to iterate over this thing at least once, then we have to iterate it again, and in each iteration we have to iterate over this subarray. So it can be n, you can say, because the worst case scenario is all of them are 1. Alright, so basically we have a space complexity of again space complexity of n as well. N, because n plus, and it can be either n plus n or n plus 0.3 n. Anyways, it can be maximum n. So big O of n for space complexity is n squared. Big O of n for time complexity is n. Space time complexity is n squared, but space complexity is n. Okay. Alright, let's try. Leetcode. So minimum operations. So now if we, so how do we devise that? So first we will write let non-empty non-empty index is equal to, first it will be an empty array, right? And later result boxes dot for each and command X, right? So for each box will work. Wait, what's up? Now for the first box, let's see if it is. Alright, okay, so first we have to populate the non-empty indexes. If element, then non-empty dot push index boxes dot element command X. Now for each element we'll iterate over so it is idx minus I. Dot abs. Okay, so instead of for each we can use reduce. Okay, so what we can do is also reduce. We have a previous value and the current value. Previous value plus, okay, so previous value, current index, and array. Oops. So previous value, current value, previous value, current, right. Math.abs, previous value, wait a minute, so the current value is previous value plus current value, previous value is 0. With the value resulting from the previous call or callback function on return call, initial value specified, otherwise value by FA. Cool. Whoops. So let's do. So first what we'll do, so previous value will be math.abs I idx minus I previous value drums. Okay, so instead of returning it, okay, let's see if you run the code, it should. Alright, so boxes not for each, we have got some error. How do I hey, I want to expand you. How do I do that? Come on. Boxes dot for each solution.js. Boxes dot for each is not a function. Why? Oh, okay, it is string. Let so are we using boxes anywhere else? We are. Doesn't matter if I just use for, it will be easier. So it will be for let I is equal to 0, I is less than boxes dot length, and then I plus plus. Now we'll simply do if boxes of I is equal to 1, right? We'll simply push I. Then same thing. Result dot push. Okay, there should be 4. Result dot push previous values of every index idx. Alright, idx minus 1 preval. Alright, that should do. Oh, my bad. Accepted. What will happen if I put submit? Wrong answer. So what we have received is, oh, it is very much wrong. So let's debug, right? So we have a debugger, so Leetcode premium. Alright, no problem. Test cases. So if I just have this 0 0 1 0 1 1, right, and if I do a console log of non-empty index, okay, so we still have 2 4 5, which is correct, 2 4 and 5, but the addition should be, so I think the error is with the usage of reduce. So result is pushing 3 instead of idx minus I mass dot absolute. That's the difference, plus preval. Current okay, let's okay, so in here first is 2 0, sure, 2 0, then 4 0, current val, this 2, previous val is 0, return, wait a minute, val equals current value, previous value plus current value. So if you return this thing, alright, 2 4 5 idx minus I didn't get this thing. Idx minus I, what is this I? These syntax, man. Alright, 0 1 2, fine. Return math.abs idx minus I, which is, so idx is 0 0 minus 0. Aha, it is actually 0 minus corral. I mean, instead of I should be current val. If you run this code, accept it. There you go. I don't need this. It was a gotcha. I don't need you right now. Just submit this. Accepted. Faster than 63%, but memory usage. Alright. So I guess we could have reduced the memory usage. Not sure. JavaScript. Left and right sum. Okay. Left moves. So it has moved till I of n. N is equal to boxes dot length. Okay. If I is greater than 0, left moves is equal to left move plus 1. Right moves. Oh. Okay. So this is actually O of n time. O of 1 memory. Damn. O of n. Okay, what do I see? Alright, the main logic of the dynamic programming equation is as follows. I is equal to plus balls on the left of I minus balls on minus array of I, where dp is the min number of operations to bring all the balls to the ith index. There's the number of balls present in the ith index. I mean, I have solved the question, but still I need to read it. Solution is not enough. I have to get to the most optimum solution. Okay. Okay, we'll see. Alright, so today's goal was 5 Leetcode medium problems, but we have achieved 4. I have to revise socket.io as well. Alright, let's revise socket.io, and then we can, because I'm feeling a little bit frustrated, so maybe changing changing the context will help. Revise socket.io. Alright, time to revise socket.io. So I'll simply follow along a tutorial. Socket.io. Which one should I follow? I think I always liked Brad Traversy, so maybe I'll follow him.
What's going on, guys? In this video we're going to build a real-time chat application from scratch called Chatcord, and we're going to be using Node.js, Express, and WebSockets using socket.io. So I just want to give you a quick demo of the application before we start. So we have this landing page or this join page where we can enter a username and we can choose a room to join. So I have just programming languages, but obviously you could use whatever you want. You could also just have a blank text field and have the user put the room name in. But we'll go ahead and click join, and now you can see we get the chat interface, the room name, which is JavaScript, the users in the room, which is just me at this point, and we have the message area, so I can send in a message here. We'll just say hello, and that will display here. Now I'm gonna just copy this localhost 3000 and go to a new tab, and this is going to be looked at as a new connection or a new client. So let's call this user John and join JavaScript, and notice that Brad is already in the chat. And if I go back to the tab, the first tab, you'll see we get this John has entered the chat. So whenever a user enters or leaves, we'll see that message here. Okay, and if I send something like, let's just say hello John, and send, and I go to John's tab, we'll see that right away. So WebSockets is a protocol that allows us to basically have bi-directional communication. You can kind of think of it as an open door between your client and your server. So it's, you know, we don't have to do refreshes or anything like that like traditional HTTP requests. So it's really cool. What else? So if we leave the room here and go back to this tab, you'll see John has left the chat. And if I join a different room, like let's say Python, and I go ahead and type something in here, that's not going to show up over here because this is the JavaScript room. So this is the app that we'll be building, and we have scroll functionality. So if I, put something else in here, you'll see we have the scroll bar and it auto scrolls down. So as soon as I type something in, it brings me right down as well. All right, so that's what we'll be building. Now I have the HTML and CSS all done. So if I go into VS Code, you'll see I have a folder called public that has two HTML files, index.html, which is the landing page or the join page, and chat.html, which is the chat interface. And right now everything's hard-coded. You can see I just have hard-coded users and hard-coded messages, but obviously we're going to use JavaScript to insert whatever we need to into the DOM, and we're using vanilla JavaScript on the front end. We're not using React or anything like that. And then I just have my CSS file and a front end main.js file that's completely empty. Now to get to the point that I'm at, just create a folder called public, and in the description you'll see a link to the GitHub, and there's a folder called HTML CSS which just has basically the static template.
All right, I'll get that. So in the description you have the code, index.html and css. Okay. So I'll simply copy it instead of cloning and everything. So file, open. Open folder. So tutorials, stream, I don't know, Android can, work. Udemy. Okay. Yes, interest. So I'll create a new folder for. So he has created a folder called whatever it is, chat card. And inside that he has just pasted the public. Cool. So inside the public, do we have the public here? Nope. We'll have public. And in here we'll create index.html. No, not. Index.html. Chat.html. JS. So in JS we have main.js, which has nothing. Cool. Some CSS. Style.css. All right. Now let's
on the front end. We're not using, React or anything like that. And then I just have my CSS file and a front end main.js file that's completely empty. Now, to get to the point that I'm at, just create a folder called public, and in the description you'll see a link to the GitHub, and there's a template. Click and then you should be ready to go. To, of course, open up a terminal, and you need to have Node.js installed because we're using, and we're going to file. So npm init. And this, of course, is in the root, not in the public directory.
Cool. So in the terminal, I'll cd to chat card. Sorry. And we have to do npm init.
So let's just go through this. Package name, version, description. We'll say real-time chat app with rooms. And entry point, I'm going to use server.js. And author, of course you can use your own name, and then license, I'll do MIT.
Right.
So that creates a package.json, which is just basically a manifest with some information, any dependencies that we install, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and install what we need for this project. So npm install, Express, which is our web framework. We need socket.io, which is a framework for dealing with WebSockets, and also Moment, which is Moment.js. And it's used to format dates and times. So those are the only dependencies. That we need in terms of regular dependencies. I do want to install nodemon as a dev dependency. So let's say npm install -uppercase D for dev dependency, and then nodemon, just so we don't have to keep restarting the server every time we make a change. It'll constantly watch it. Alright, and then we just want to create a couple scripts, so we don't need this test script, so we'll create a start, and all this is going to do is call node and then the file name, the main file, which is server.js, or just server, and then we'll have a dev script that will call nodemon and then the file name, which is server. So that's all we have to do in the package.json, so we can go ahead and close that up. So let's create our server.js. Okay, so this is basically, this is our back end, this is the entry point to everything.
Okay.
And we're going to bring in Express. Basically, I'm just going to create a very simple, just regular Express server first, and then we'll move on to implementing socket.io. So let's bring in Express, and let's initialize a variable called app and set that to Express. And then on that app variable, on this object, we can call listen to run a server, and this takes in a port number. So let's create a variable called port, and I'm going to use 3000, but I'm going to also say or process.env.port. So it's going to look to see if we have an environment variable named port and use that. If not, then use 3000. And we just plug that in here, and then we can optionally have an arrow function, and we'll just do a console log here with backticks and say server running on port, and then use our variable syntax to put in that port number. So just this, excuse me, just this should actually run by doing npm run dev, because we created that dev script, and we get server running on 3000. Now, I want to have this public folder set as our static folder so that we can access these HTML files and access our front end. So the way that we're going to do that is by setting here, let's say set static folder, and with express we just do app.use express.static and then the name of the folder that we want. And I'm just going to use the help of the path module, which is a Node.js core module. So I'm going to bring there, and this takes in a port number. So just this that we want, and I'm just going to use the help of the path module, which is a Node.js core module. So I'm going to bring that in. So we're going to require path, and then inside here we can simply say path.join, and we want to join the current directory, so dir underscore or double underscore dir name, and then the public folder, and that sets it as our static folder. So now if we go to a browser and we say path.join, and we want to join the current directory, so dir underscore or double underscore dir name, and then the public folder. And that sets it as our static folder. So now if we go to a browser and we open up HTTP localhost 3000, we should see the index.html page. And if we put in a username here and join, it'll just bring us right to chat.html because that's being used as an action. So in our index, you can see the form here has an action of chat.html, so it directly submits to it. There's no front-end JavaScript or anything, it just submits. And since we have, you know, an input here and a select, that's going to automatically get put up here in the query string, and we're going to grab onto these later on and implement them into our application. Okay, so right now we just have a bunch of static stuff here. These are all just hard-coded with HTML. So the next thing I want to do is set up our server to handle socket.io. So we're going to go up here and first of all bring in the HTTP module, or package, or whatever you want to call it. And this actually is used by Express under the hood. So there's a method called create server that Express actually uses, but we want to access it directly because we need to in order to use socket.io. So what we'll do is create a server variable and set this to HTTP, and then we want the create server method, and we can actually pass in our Express app. And then instead of doing app.listen, we're going to do server.listen. And it should still work. We'll just stop this. Server with Control-C and run it again, and you can see it still runs. All right, now to use socket.io, we have to first.
So they have used a server.
Bring it in, it still runs.
Alright, so they have used a server and they've initialized it with http dot create server with app. Okay. And now, okay, app.user is doing all of these things. Server.listen, okay.
Alright, now to use socket.io, we have to first bring it in. So we're going to call this socket.io, set this to require socket.io, and we want to initialize a variable called io, and set that to socket IO, and then just simply pass in our server. Okay, and that way we can now, let's see, let's actually go under this, and now we can say run when a client connects. So we can take that IO variable or IO object and say .on, which is going to listen for some kind of event, and we're going to listen for our connection. And then this will take in an arrow function with socket as a parameter. Okay, and I'm just going to, for now, just say console log, and let's say new WebSocket connection. So we'll save that. Now, whenever a client connects, it should go ahead and console log this. So we don't have anything set up on our front end to be able to do that, so let's jump into chat HTML. And now that we have socket.io set up on our server, we can use the front end library here. So in our chat HTML, we're going to add another script tag with a source, and we should be able to access slash socket.io slash socket.io.js. Okay, so that'll give us access to the front end library, and in this main JS we can access the IO method and everything we need to. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just close that up for now, and let's go into our front end JavaScript, which is public JS main JS. Now in here I'm going to create a variable called socket and just set that to IO, which we have access to because of that script tag we just added. Now just having this, if I go back to our front end here and I reload the chat HTML, reload it a couple times, down here in the server console you'll see this new WS connection, and that's because of this right here. It's actually connecting and we're just logging. Now this doesn't do us much good. What we want to do is send or emit.
Wait a minute. Join chat. Oh, nice. So the main.js actually connects with IO, and in the chat.html, how did we style sheet import body? Wait a minute, how did we end up here? socket.io.js.
Front end library here, and now that we have socket.io set up on our server, we can use the front end library here. So in our chat HTML we're going to add another script tag with a source, and we should be able to access slash socket.io slash socket.io.js. Okay, so that'll give us access to the front end library, and in this main JS we can access the IO method and everything we need to. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just close that up for now, and let's go into our front end JavaScript, which is public JS main JS. Now in here I'm going to create a variable called socket and just set that to IO, which we have access to because of that script tag we just added. Now just having this, if I go back to our front end here and I reload the chat or between the client as welcome, and we'll call the or between the client and the server, and we can emit events back and forth. So I want to be able to emit a message to our client from our server. So in our server JS, make sure we're in the connection here. We're going to emit, so socket.emit, and we'll call this message. You can emit whatever you want, call it whatever you want, and then also send whatever data you want. In this case, I'm just going to send a string that says welcome to ChatCord. Okay, now I'm going to save this, and the way that we basically catch this on the client side is in our main JS. We can now take that socket variable and say socket.on, just like we did on the server, and say on message. So whenever we get this message event and we get a function here with a message parameter, because on our server side we sent this right here, which is going to be this message. In fact, I'll console log this message, and if I save that, we go back and then I open up my client side console and reload, we get welcome to ChatCord. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to ChatCord. So it has its server.js has emitted. So when I was called, I think a two-way connection has been established, and after that this has been console logged here, and then socket has emitted this message, and this messages, and when we are getting this thing socket.on. Okay, makes sense.
Because that fires off right away. As soon as we're connected, it logs here on the server, and then it emits the message, which we then catch here and then log. Now, we're going to be sending a lot of different types of messages. We have our welcome, so we emitted this welcome message. We're going to send, of course, when we type in a message. Also, when someone connects and disconnects, I want to have a message. So I'm going to go right here, and let's say broadcast when a user connects. So for this, we're actually going to do socket, and instead of just .emit, we're going to say broadcast.emit. Now the difference between socket.emit and broadcast emit, this will actually emit to everybody except the user that's connecting. We don't need to notify the user that's connecting that they're connecting. This will emit to just the single user or the single client that's connecting. And then if you want to broadcast to everybody, like you would when we send a message, you would do io.emit. Okay, so there's basically three ways to do it. This is to the client, the single client.
Okay.
This is to all of the clients except the client that's connecting. This is to all the clients in general. All right, so we want to broadcast when a user connects. So this is going to be message, and the message is going to be a user has joined the chat, and later on we'll have actual usernames. Now at the same time, when there's a disconnect, so down here, let's say this runs when client disconnects, and then we just want to say socket.on disconnect. I know it's a little weird that like this is inside of the connection, but it has to be. You don't want to have this outside of it. So on disconnect, then we're going to have a function. I'm just going to use an arrow function, and I want to then emit to everyone that the user has left the chat. So we're going to do io.emit, meaning let everyone know, and we want to emit message, and we'll say a user has left the chat. All right, So this here, let's just say welcome current user. And we don't actually need this console log anymore. Okay, so with all of these, we're emitting message, which we're catching here, so it should log all this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and reload here, and I'm going to take localhost 3000 and go to a new tab. And this really doesn't matter. This is just going to bring us to chat.html. So we'll go ahead and join, and then over here in the console, you'll see a user has joined the chat. If I either leave room, which will just bring me back to the form, you know, the join, or close the tab, you'll see now a user has left the chat. So those broad.
Okay, let's try that. Okay. Okay, makes sense.
Podcasts are working correctly. Now the next thing I want to do is implement this messaging. So if we type something in here and send, we want to then emit that to the server and then have it sent back so we can put it into the DOM. So let's go to our main.js, and we need to somehow access that form. So let's create a variable called chat form and bring in that DOM element. So document.getElement by ID, and that form has an ID of chat form. So if we look at chat HTML, where is it? Right here, form ID chat form. So we want to basically create an event listener for the submission of that form. So we'll say message submit, and we'll take chat form and add an event listener. We want to listen for a submit, and then that's going to take in a function. I'm going to use an arrow function, and we want to pass in the event parameter here, because when you submit a form, it automatically just submits to a file, and we want to stop that from happening. So we can use e.prevent default, which will prevent the default behavior. And then we need to get the text input, and we could do that a few ways. We could grab it from the DOM, but I think a neater way to do it is to, let's just call this message. We can take e.target, okay, so that'll give us the current element, and we have access to elements, and then we want MSG. So basically we're getting it by its ID, which if we look at chat HTML, has this ID of MSG. So we're getting that, but we do want the value, so we have to do .value. And then what we'll do is console log MSG. So now when we submit the form, it should get the message from the text input and then just log it on the client side. We're not yet dealing with, you know, emitting it to the server or anything, but let's just try that out. So reload, type something in, send, and it logs. Now instead of console logging, we don't want to do that. We want to socket.emit. Okay, so we're going to emit, and we're going to give this a name of chat message, and we're going to send that message as the payload. Okay, so I'll put a comment here. So we're emitting a message to the server. Let's see here, we'll just say get message text. Alright, so now on the server side, let's go to server.js, and we emitted chat message. So now we basically have to catch that. So within this connection here, let's say listen for chat message, and the way we do that is with socket.on. So on chat message, then we're going to have a function, an arrow function, with message as a parameter that we can have access to, and I'll console log that on the server side. So now when I send a message, it should log down here on the server, right? So let's reload this and just type something in and send, and if we look down in VS Code,
So we are doing a socket.emit. Yep, it's coming here.
code in the terminal, it's logging on the server. Now what we want to do is emit this back to the client, right? So we want it to emit to everybody, so we use io.emit, and we want to emit as message, just like everything else that we've done, and send the message. So now it should log, it should call this because it's on message. It'll get it as the argument else that we've done, and send the message. So now it should log, it should call this because it's on message. It'll get it as the argument, and then we're console logging it. Right, so let's reload, type something in, send, and it logs here. Now obviously we don't want to just log this. I mean, that's stupid. We want to output it here. Right, so we're going to have to do a little bit of DOM manipulation. Now you could use some kind of template engine like Handlebars or Mustache. You could also use a front-end framework like React or something, but we're doing this all vanilla JavaScript. So what we'll do is we'll have a function called output message, and we'll pass in the message. So obviously we have to, let's put a comment here. So this is message from server, and then down here let's create, let's say output message to DOM. So function output message, which takes in a message. Now we have to do a little bit of DOM manipulation here, so I'm going to create a div, and we'll set this to document.createElement, which does just that. We're going to create a div. We want to add a class to it, because if we look at the format of the messages, so we have a wrapper, where is it, of chat messages, and then each message has a div with the class of message. And then inside that we have two paragraphs for the meta and the text. So we want to add this message class. So let's do that. Let's take the div and say class list, which will give us all the classes, but we want to add on to that the class of message. And then we want to take that div and we want to set the inner HTML equal to some backticks. And if we look in the HTML, again, the two paragraphs, we can just copy this, paste that in there. Now we don't have access to a name or time or anything, but remember we do have the message, so we can replace that with message. And then the last thing we need to do, since we already have everything created, is put it into the DOM. So we'll say document dot get element by ID, and let's grab the, or actually we don't have an ID, do we? We want, basically we want to take this chat messages right here, which is a class. So let's actually use query selector, and we want to select the class of chat messages, which is the container, and then we want to append child and append the div. Okay, so whenever we create a message, it should add a new div to this chat messages. So let's try this out. It should work. So I'll reload, and we automatically get welcome. Welcome to chat cord, because that's sent from the server right away when we join, right? So up here we catch it, we're logging it, and then we're setting it to this output message, which then puts it into the DOM. Now at the same time, when a user joins or leaves, or we send a message, it all gets emitted as message. So all of these are getting caught right here, right? And it's gonna output, it's gonna run this. So if I put something in here like hello and send, there we go. Now it's always going to say Brad, this, and the time. This is hard coded right now, but we're going to fix that in a little bit. If I open up a new tab and join, we should see a user joined. Okay, so if I go over here, we see a user has joined the chat. If I leave, a user has left. Now at the moment, it doesn't matter which room I join. Even if I join PHP, it's still going to say, you know, a user has joined. But we'll fix that in a little bit. Now, one thing I want to do, or a couple small things I want to do, is when we add a message, see how it does get added, but it doesn't automatically bring us down so we can see it. I want to add that, which is simple. It's just one line of code. I also want to clear this and focus onto it after submission. So that's really easy. We're just going to go to our front-end JavaScript, our main JS. And let's see, where do we want to do this? For the scroll, let's go right into...
क्या बात कर रही है? हाँ, ट्रेलर आया, देखते हैं.
Every time we get a message, we want to scroll down. So I'm actually going to bring in from the DOM the chat messages div. Set that to document. Document dot, and what is it, a class? Yeah, so we'll do query selector class chat messages, and then down here, to do this, we can simply take the chat messages and set the scroll top property to whatever the chat messages scroll height is. And that should automatically do that scroll thing. So let's check it out. So if I reload and send, so now you can see I'm always at the bottom, and that that should automatically do that scroll thing. So let's check it out. So if I reload and send, so now you can see I'm always at the bottom. Even if I go up here, if I send, it brings me right down to the bottom. Now another thing I want to do, like I said, I want to clear out the input. So after we emit chat message to the server, let's go ahead and clear our input. So we'll take e.target.elements.message and set the value to nothing. And then we'll also just focus on it by calling the focus method. So now, if I reload here and I say hello and I send, it goes away and it focuses on the empty input, which is what I want. All right, so all that's working great. So now let's move on. Let's see, what do we want to move on to? I think we're ready to start doing like users in rooms, because right now we have just the message stuff set up. Actually, you know what? Let's format the message, because right now it's just a string. It's always just a single string. I want it to be an object with a time. Ultimately, we want the user and stuff like that. So let's go to server.js, and everywhere where we send a string here, I want to wrap it in a format message function. So I'm going to create in the root here a folder called utils, and in utils we're going to create, let's call this message or messages.js. And in this messages.js, I'm just going to create a function called format message. Format message is a function, and it's going to take in two things: a username and the text message. And from that, we want to return an object with the username. So this is just like doing this. With ES6, we can just put in just the username. Text, same thing. And then I also want to add the time, which I'm going to get from that moment.js library that we installed. So let's say const moment equals require moment. And this is really easy to work with. If we want today's or right now, like this date and time right now, we can just use moment.format. Although that's not going to look too good, so we can actually put some stuff in here. All I want is the time. So hour, colon, minutes, and then AM or PM. And that's it. We just need to export this. So module.exports equals format message. And then we can bring that into our server.js and use it. So up here, let's say const format message equals require. We want to go to utils/messages. Now everywhere that we send a message, we actually want to, instead of just sending a string, we want to send format message with a username. Now this stuff here, like the welcome, let's just make sure we add our ending parenthesis. Everything that is like a welcome or user join the chat, that's going to be from the Chatcord bot, or whatever you want to call it. You could call it admin or whatever. And since I'm going to use this in so many places, I'm going to actually create a variable called bot name, and we'll put that right up here. const bot name equals chat cord bot. So we're passing in the username and the message again. We're calling this function username, and well, I should say text. The whole thing is the message. That's just the text. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Now I'm going to just copy this, and we want to do the same thing here. So let's see, bot name, and then add the closing parentheses, and then we don't want to, let's see, let's do this disconnect. Okay, so bot name, close that, and then this here where we're actually taking the message from a user, we're not going to be using bot name. So what I'll do is for now, let's wrap that. For now, let's just say user. That's going to be replaced later on. So if we save this, let's go back and reload. Now, notice what we're getting back from the server now, an object with username, which is chat cord bot, in this case, text, and time. Okay, now in here we're now seeing just an object, because this is no longer just a string, it's an object. So these two we can ignore. In fact, we can get rid of those if we go to our template right here. Just get rid of these two hard-coded messages so that it's just an empty div, an empty chat messages div. That way we don't have to deal with those two phony messages. So in order for this to show the text, we need to go to our main.js and go down to the output message, and this is now an object, right? It's no longer a string, so we want the text property from that. Also, we can get the time now, so we can set this to message dot time. Okay, the user, actually no, we have the user, that's right. So we'll set this to message dot user. Is it user name? Let's see. Yeah, username. All right, so let's save that and go back and reload. And there we go. So chat cord bot 3:33 p.m., which is the correct time, and the message text. say hello, of course right now it just says user because we don't have that functionality yet. But if I go to, you know, a different, let's go here, room doesn't matter yet, but if I go back over, we'll see from the chat cord bot, a user has joined the chat. All right, awesome. So now we want to start to implement users in rooms. So the way that this is going to work, if I leave the room and I type in something here and join, notice that we have the username, we have some query strings with the username and the room. So that's ultimately where this is coming from, and we want to grab these somehow. Now there's a library called QS, or query string, that we can use to grab these values. So let's close that up and let's search for QS CDN. So this link right here, I'm going to grab the minified version. So just copy script tag, and we want to put that in our chat HTML right above our socket.io library script. So now we have access to this query string library, and the way that we can get those values is actually pretty easy. So up here at the top, let's go right here. Let's say get username and room from URL. So we'll say const, and we can use destructuring to get the username and the room. And we can get that from the QS library from a method called parse, and we can get the URL with location.search, window.location.search, and we just want to add in an option here because we don't want to get the symbols, or I should say the characters like the ampersand and the question mark. So there's an option that we can use here called ignore query prefix, and we want to set that to true. We want to ignore that. Now, just to show you that we can get these, let's just log both of those. And now if I go back and enter the chat, you'll see it's logging Brad in JavaScript. So now we have query prefix, and we want to set that to true. We want to ignore that. Now, just to show you that we can get these, let's just log both of those. And now if I go back and have access to these in it, actually let's just get rid of that. We want to go under this socket and let's say join chat room. So we'll go ahead and emit an event called join room, and we'll go ahead and send an object with the username and the room. Now we can catch this on the server side, so let's go to our server.js, and we'll just go right to the top of where this connection is. Let's see, yeah, so basically we have to go right here and say socket dot on join room. Let's see, yeah, join room, and then that takes in an object with username and room, and this is going to be an arrow function. Now, since we're using rooms from this point on, this welcome and stuff like that, the welcome in this broadcast is actually going to go inside the join room. So we're going to go ahead and just cut that. Yeah, cut that and paste that in here. I actually want the disconnect at the end, so I'm going to put that under this chat message. Okay. Now, so we're welcoming the user to the room. We need to join the room because right now we haven't done that yet. We're just responding to this event. So we need to actually create a user. So what we'll do here is, well, actually before we do anything, let's create a new file in utils called users.js, and anything to do with users will go in here. So join when they leave, if we want to get all the users in a room, stuff like that. So we'll have our state, which will just be an array, and obviously you could connect up a database if you wanted to, but we're just basically keeping everything in memory. So join user to chat. So let's say function user join, which is basically just going to add a user to the array and return it. So in here it's going to have an ID. Every user needs a unique ID, a username, and a room. So we want to create user from the stuff that's passed in, so an object of ID, username, and room, and then we want to add to the array, so we'll take the users array and push onto it that user, okay, and then ultimately return that user. Now at the same time I'm going to create another function to get the current user. So let's create a function called get current user, and we'll get the user by its ID, and we're just returning the array, and we'll use the find method, which is a high order array method, takes in an arrow function. So for each user we're going to pick out the user where the ID is equal to the ID that's passed in here. Now we need to just export these, so module.exports user join and also get current user. So now we can bring this into our server.js. So bring in from utils users, and we're bringing in a few things, so we need curly braces. We want user join and also get current user. Now back down here, where we have this this join room. Let's see, yeah, show join room. So we need to actually join. So we have this room functionality with socket.io, so we can do that with socket join. Now I could join, I could hard code like JavaScript or something, but we want whatever room that the user joins, which ultimately comes from the URL. So let's set a variable of user here to user join. Okay, so this user join takes in an ID, a username, and a room. Now we already have the username in the room coming from here, so we'll paste that in. The ID, however, I'm going to use the ID of the socket. So socket.id. Okay, so that comes from here. That's going to be the user's ID. And then we want to join the user.room. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Now, this is fine, the welcome message. However, when we broadcast, it's going to be to the room. So we actually need to do broadcast.to, like this, .emit, and then put in the user.room. So this is how you can emit to a specific room. So let's save that, and let's see, I guess we could try this out. One thing we could do here is, instead of a user has joined a chat, we now have access to the user username. So we can let's replace these with backticks, and let's say user.username has joined the chat. Alright, so let's try that out. I'm going to go back here and say Brad join JavaScript. Okay, if I say hello. So this still says user, but we'll fix that. But what I do want to try is opening another tab. And making sure that we have room functionality as far as like telling us they join the chat. So if I do Kevin, but what I really want, it doesn't say anything. So now let's alright, so now let's, because right now, like I just showed you, it just says user. Go down to where we're doing this listen for chat message. And remember, we have that get current user method we created. We're going to use that here. So we're going to set the user to get current user and pass in the socket.id to get that user. Now, just like we did above, we want to do io dot and then to, and then the room dot emit. So it'll be user dot room, or else we'll just emit to every room. And now we can replace this with user.username in the message. So now, if we go back and reload, and I try to send and replace this with user.username in the message. So now, if we go back and reload, and I try to send a message here, now it gives me my name right here. Alright, so messages are nicely formatted with the name, the time, and the text. And it's only being sent to this room. Alright, now we want to do the same with like when the user leaves the chat, because right now it's just going to say a user has left the chat. I don't know why I keep clicking over there. So in our users.js, we're going to have a couple more functions. So let's do user leaves chat. So function user leave. We need the ID of the user, and basically we need to remove the user from the array. So I'm gonna just, there's a lot of ways you could do this, but we're gonna set an index and use users, which is the array, dot find index, and we want to say for each user we want to find where the user.id is equal to the ID that's passed in. That'll give us the index. Then we want to check to see if the index is not equal to -1, because the way this works is if it finds it, it returns it. If not, it returns a -1. So if not indexed, then we want to return the user's array without that user. And we can do that by using splice. So we're going to splice it out by the index, and we're splicing 1. We're taking out 1 and returning it. Okay, so that's user leave, and then the last function is going to be to get room users. So let's say function get room users. And obviously we need the room, and we can, this is pretty simple, we can just use filter. So we can say for the users array we want to filter through, and we want to say for each user we want to return only if the user room is equal to the room that's passed in. Alright, and then we just need to export those. So user leave, user leave, and get room users, and then bring those into server.js up here. Alright, cool. So let's see. In the disconnect right here, so when we disconnect we want to run that user's leave, right? So let's set, and we need to know which user left, so let's set user to user leave and pass in the socket ID to get that user, and then check for the user. And if that user exists, then we want to do this. So we can actually just move this up into here, except we want to do io.to the user.room, and we want to emit, and then we want to say the user's actual name here. So let's turn these into backticks, and say user.username has left the chat. Alright, now that should work. I mean, we can test that out real quick. if I leave, must have messed something up here. Const user leave io.2, the user room, we're emitting a message, formatting it. So this didn't even, leave id find and equal to negative the entire. Okay, we just want to return the user, so we need to just put in the 0 again. So you know what, let's work on. So we have our connection, we have our join room. After the broadcast where someone has joined the chat, let's send users and room info. So to do this, we're going to emit from, what is it? So that will list of you. So down, so do here and DOM function. So let's go. Okay, now we need to create these two functions. And, before we continue, which is the text, and from there's for each this. So we need to bring an array into a graph. Join. Jack should see it over here. Good. So if I leave the room and let's say Jack joins Python or PHP. Now Brad isn't in here anymore because we're not in the same room, and that doesn't show up over here. Yeah, encourage that if you want or whatever, do that. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching,
Alright.
and I hope everybody is keeping safe and not going nuts. And
Oh boy. Right. That's enough for today's stream.